אם יהודי מוסר את העם שלו ואת המדינה שלו בידי האויב, חובה להרוג אותו.
יש חוקים בארץ, לא? עם שלם בוחר בבן אדם, אתה מחליט שצריך להרוג אותו?
We've talked, I think, 2 years ago doing a masterclass in Brasilia Film Festival. I'm always glad to talk to you, and thanks for your time in such a difficult moment. I know it's not easy to talk about, you know.
Okay.
At the same time, it was a bittersweet, you know, emotion watching the film again, because I watched it many years ago, and I was feeling this bittersweet, you know, feeling. I suppose you as well, like talking about the film, because it's such a sense of like a prophecy in a way, like you're investigating the past. It's like an archaeology of the past,
Yes.
but at the same time, you were predicting what is happening now, isn't it? Like everything is so connected.
Yeah, but I think that that's, you know, that's what we can do, filmmakers, is to create an archive of memory. And sometimes, like you say, Flavia, that the memory comes back and we see some things that we did years ago, you know.
Yeah, but because this project never ends, isn't it? It was a play, was an exhibition. Now you can always bring it back, you know. And I suppose it's different each time, because, you know, history is always changing, isn't it? Like the actual history.
Absolutely.
And how do you feel like talking about the film in such a difficult moment? You know, like we are far away geographically in Brazil, but we have like you know, we are all connected. Besides, Brazil has an important Jewish community, and we have also Palestinian refugees from the Middle East, and we are really in a difficult moment. It's difficult to talk to each other. And I remember you always talking about how Rabin always said that if we think about peace, we think,
About-
you know, both sides, not unilateral, you know, because peace doesn't exist if we think about ourselves. So how do you feel about it?
No, you're right. You know, I think this very tragic and brutal attack of the Hamas on Israeli civilians, I mean, raping women, cutting children before their parents, it's really a brutality that, frankly, I don't ever remember, even in war cases. And among the people which were brutalized is even and kidnapped is, let's say, a woman. She's called Vivian Silver. She's 74. She was a peace activist of one of the kibbutzim. She went to Gaza to bring children to Israeli hospitals, and she was kidnapped. So when this kind of blind savagery attack happened, it is from any human being. It doesn't matter from which nation or which religion. It is terrible. It is a big shock, and the entire country is under shock. You know. But and I think that the savagery of the Hamas is not just against Israelis; it's also against Palestinians, because we can understand that if they will take power, what will be Palestine? What will be Palestine? So I don't wish to my Palestinian friends to have a regime which don't respect women, which don't respect LGBT, which don't respect the freedom of speech, the freedom of press. I hope that Palestine will be created, but with modern, moderate forces. So I think it is essentially, and we live in a dangerous region. You know, I know because I have so many friends in Brazil, so I know obviously the Bolsonaro years were not easy. Finally, you prevailed. You managed to conquer back. But also, you know, even geopolitically, what do you have as neighbors? You have the Atlantic Ocean, you have which is pretty friendly. You have some other Latin American countries. So it's not, Israel is situated in a very dangerous zone. And that's part of the legacy of Rabin, that he understood it. And he wanted to go straight forward to try to resolve the most complicated issue, which is between the Israeli and the Palestinians. And I think this was a very good idea. Unfortunately, he was assassinated.
It didn't work the way I think all the world expected and wanted in that time, you know, like, because everything changed, you know, as you said, we are pro-Palestine, you know, of course we are. There's no way not to defend Palestinian people. And this process is quite complex. And I really like the way you show in the film, the process of the right wing, you know, and you have such a critical look. I love your cinema, like since Kedma and, you know, Kadosh and Eden is one of my favorite films ever, because we could understand the process of the creation of Israeli country, isn't it? Like, which I think people are really ignorant in a positive way. Like, we really don't know, you know, like, so we need to know more. So how do you feel about this film at this moment? You know, like it's a Habez.
I think that unfortunately it's a perfect timing. I say unfortunately because it's so tragic, but we have to keep the idea that we have to still strive for a solution. You know, we cannot. Otherwise, what is the alternative? It's only pessimism, destruction, death, nihilism. You know, so we have to, at the end of the horizon, to keep some little hope, and to work for it. It's not going to come by itself. I mean, the only thing we can say, Ravia, is that you know, if we look at Europe, you know, this fancy European who have advice for the rest of the world, so they went in just less than 100 years ago through the worst savagery of 2 big world wars, of tens of millions killed, the entire continent burned, until finally they reached an understanding that you can be in disagreement or even conflict, but no shooting. So I hope that it will take us less time to understand it. But I think that you know, Rabin is a kind of a mirador of a persistent search for solutions, political solutions.
חזר און דה רקורד על השתלשלות האירועים ב4 בנובמבר.
עשיתי את כל מה שניתן לעשות וכל מה שצריך לעשות.
In the film, I like very much this piece that in the press conference in Cairo, he speaks actually about Gaza. So he says about Gaza that he is against unilateral withdrawal. He says, if we go out, we have to make sure that 25,000 Palestinian functionaries which need to get salaries, they need to have water, they need to have electricity, he even say they need to have oxygen in the hospital. So this is the way making peace is like intimate relations. It's like the other should exist. It's not unilateral.
And it's ironic the way Netanyahu is also in your film, at the end of the film, because it is again historical process, isn't it?
Yeah, and he constructed this crazy government with ultra-nationalist, kind of lunatic, messianic, and ultra-religious, and started in order to not to go to court to divide the society, inciting Jews against Arabs, Sephardi against Ashkenazi, religious against secular. And actually there was a big resistance, very impressive. Hundreds of thousands every weekend demonstrated peacefully. So because they basically didn't want to go into a dictatorship structure. So I think the Hamas used these frictions that were created by this government, and they seized the opportunity to create more chaos. I'm not sure it will work, the strategy. I hope it will not work. But still, it's a big tragedy for everybody.
It is. And talking more about, the making of the film, I really like the way you get the recording, of the process, and you used actors to recreate it, because I really like the idea that you are an architect, you are a filmmaker, and you film documentaries and also fiction. So I think you mixed everything, I can see like a 3-dimensional film being built. How did you feel this how the idea?
Like you mentioned, I managed to get from the president of the Supreme Court the protocol of the investigation. And this really helped me with my co-writer, Marie-José, to create a series of figures and to reconstitute it. And then to do some integration of the document archive material. So it's also, most of the film is by actors, but some archives also are integrated. it was an incredibly strong experience to do it.
לפני כחצי שעה, בתום עצרת ההזדהות בכיכר מלכי ישראל בתל אביב, היה ניסיון לפגוע בראש הממשלה יצחק רבין.
I think it's such a powerful film. I don't know if it's your most difficult film in a way, because it's so, you've done other difficult stories, and I really like the way you don't tell like black and white stories. You know, it's about human being, and human being are complex. But this one I feel really sensitive, you know, maybe because I watched it again, but I felt this before, because I remember I was really young, but I remember when Rabin was killed, it was such a shock, was a strike against our dreams, maybe utopias, you know.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. No, that's why, you know, I'm just an architect. I never studied even a 1 hour film. So I consider a lot of the work I did as a civic gesture. And I think that cinema is this very strong medium, and we should not escape from this, not by doing indoctrinary didactic works, but using it as a context. You know, Flavia, the prizes I'm most proud that I ever got is I'm the one who got twice the Rossellini Prize. I got the Visconti Prize. I got a Bresson Prize. So I think it's people who gave us this idea of making very strong cinema, but also not escaping I don't like the word mission, but I will use it, the mission of speaking about the real world.
פגיעת כדור ליד עמוד השדרה, עם פגיעה בעמוד השדרה.
ויבואו עליו כל הקללות, אמן ואמן!
I wish you could, you know, give some, not advice, but some tips maybe in cinema for those who want to know more or feel more. I think we need to feel more. We are thinking too much or discussing too much or hating too much. Maybe we should feel the stories as your film make us feel.
No, we should do, like you say, maybe in Sex Pompeii or one of the 9 structures. You know, we can do both installation and performance. You know, maybe I will let you be my ambassadrice.
Why not? It would be my pleasure, really. It would be an honor. So we can like, you know, open our minds. I think we need this. So, and to finish, really, how do you feel about this actual conflict? Do you have a guess how we could?
Listen, I was surprised that the French president, Macron, asked me to join him on his flight to the Middle East, and I actually just came very late last night. So we were in Jerusalem and Ramallah and Amman and Cairo to see politically. Sometimes I like to observe, like when I went with Rabin, I also went on his plane to Cairo and to Washington to his meeting with the Palestinians. And sometimes you have to experience it not just by videos, but by first-hand experience. So I got a message from the French president that he's inviting me. I was surprised, but glad, and to see what can be the next step.
Thank you so much. תודה רבה.
שמחה.
לי לומר שאני גם מתרגש. אני רוצה להודות לכל אחת ואחד מכם שהתייצב כאן כנגד האלימות ובעד השלום.